with members of the Knesset. The event was hosted by the Mideast Press Club, and speakers included the Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister and the Speaker of the Knesset. Some of the questions and answers are in Arabic and Hebrew and translated into English. This is an hour and 10 minutes.
All right. Greetings, shalom, marhaba, and welcome to this very special session of the Mideast Press Club. I'm Felice Friedson, President and CEO of the Media Line, a nonprofit American news agency. And I just want to say that it is wonderful to have each and every one of you here, despite how difficult it was this morning in getting into the Knesset. I'm proud to open this session of the Mideast Press Club. Please turn off your cell phones, and I want to take a moment and just acknowledge our board members that are here today. Many are sick, as you can hear from my voice, unfortunately. Yaakov Achimer, can you please stand up? Greer Fick Hashman, David Rubinger, Ahmed Hamid. And these just are some of the distinguished board members that are on the board of the Mideast Press Club. The Mideast Press Club brings local Israeli and Palestinian journalists together, but we invite members of the foreign press to our session to observe and to chronicle. And so I'd like to acknowledge Connie Muss, Chairman of the Foreign Press Association. Connie, please stand up. Connie, thank you for coming today. It's really an honor to have you. I also want to thank our distinguished guests who will be addressing us today and offer them my very special thanks and the impressive array of editors and bureau chiefs that are here today. Thank you very, very much for being here. It's about democracy, folks, and we in the media profession bear an awesome responsibility. No institution is more an indication of a nation's relationship with democracy than the press, and with all of its modern manifestations, from blogs to new media. Being here today inside of Israel's Knesset is testimony to its democracy. Actually, I don't think we could have accidentally made 500 phone calls and sent the hundreds of emails that it took to pull this all together. But if democracy is in any part judged by press freedom, that freedom demands access. And today, the Palestinian participants of the Mideast Press Club are being granted the access so necessary in order to fulfill their journalistic roles, and so necessary for Israel's own sense of the democratic process. And for this, I thank and I applaud Speaker Rivlin, who I hope will still join us today, member of Knesset Tzachi Hanegbi, who did so much to make this happen, and all of our participants who cleared their calendars to be here today because they do indeed realize how important today's event is. When we created the Mideast Press Club in 2005, we were concerned that interaction and cooperation were casualties of the Intifada. The result was journalistically intolerable. Reporters on both sides were denied access by the other, and without access, complete stories could not be told. So the Mideast Press Club began to rebuild communication by reintroducing members of Israel's press corps to their Palestinian colleagues and Palestinian writers to their Israeli colleagues. We held events, we chartered buses to physically bring colleagues together in Tel Aviv and Ramallah. Today, with the help of the Knesset Speaker Rivlin, Minister of Minorities Avishai Braverman, Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon, Deputy Speaker Ahmed Tibi, and member of Knesset Tzachi Hanegbi, Chairman of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, we're taking a giant step forward as Palestinian participants of the Mideast Press Club are here as invited guests, free to interface with a cross-section of Israeli and political thought. And this is a very key point today. Our Palestinian members are being welcomed not by a single Israeli lawmaker, but by the Speaker, who carries with him the imprimatur of the state and representatives of the major parties. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't be more official than this. Yet some will no doubt see a glass that's half empty and assign blame for the fact that Palestinian journalists have not been regular participants among press covering events here. But this historic inevitable often needs a push, and we're delighted to do the pushing. As an American organization, the Media Line is proud to once again offer its good offices in support of democracy. And that is the theme of today's session, Symbols of Democracy, Speaking for the Record. We're meeting today in the most visible and tangible manifestation of Israeli democracy, the Knesset. We're joined by the most necessary and irreplaceable figure of nascent Palestinian democracy, the free and independent Fourth Estate. This estate is going to accompany the Palestinian people into statehood. And we want to welcome Speaker Reuven Rivlin, thank you for being with us. In all honesty, the first sessions of the Mideast Press Club were marked by apprehension and caution, as attendees from both sides openly questioned what was to be gained by their participation. It was only after several sessions and a whole lot of exchanging business cards and cell phone numbers that we all realized how productive it is to have a colleague strategically placed to answer questions, run down leads, even supply sources, all in time to meet a deadline. And I'm sure we all can relate to that. The Mideast is an amazing laboratory for the study of democracy, and even the most cursory evaluation can be quickly accomplished by looking at a nation's press freedom and the degree to which its media infrastructure creates a system of checks and balances on its political leadership. At this time, I want to call upon Knesset member Tzachi Hanegbi to offer his greetings, but before I do, I just have to take a moment to thank Minister Avishai Braverman for being here. I know that something came up and you're not going to be able to stay, so we're going to just take one moment before we move ahead, just for you to say a couple of words.
Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleagues, Tzachi Hanegbi, Deputy Foreign Minister Alon, and the one and only one, friend Ahmed Tibi, that is probably one of our most influential MKs. And when I used to go and visit Arafat, when I was the president of Ben-Gurion University, I knew I had protection because I went together with Mr. Tibi. I apologize because in 5 minutes, the Director General of the OECD, Angel Chia, and the Finance Minister, we're gathering in the cabinet for a meeting, which I didn't know yesterday that I have to participate since I'm a member. And I'll just say 2 words. Yes, Israel is democracy, is a vibrant democracy. Yes, we have to fight for democracy every day, the way the speaker is fighting, the way all are. And I'll say one piece about the Israeli Arabs. I feel that while the Israeli Arabs, which are 20% of the population, are voting as Israeli Jews, and their standard of living are higher than Palestine, than the neighboring countries, this government, which I hope, my intention, and the Prime Minister talked to me that by the end of this month, we shall say also in the meeting of the OECD, we committed ourselves for a meeting with decisions of the government to change essentially the allocation of resources for the Israeli Arabs, that their income per capita is only 1/3 of the Jews. And to a large extent, it's because government in the past did not give the same allocation of resources to Arab as Jews. And therefore, I believe if you are from what we call the Jabotinsky order, people from the liberal right, or if you are from the left or the center, this is something that should be done. It's not only just, it's not only moral, that we prove that we are really practice what we preach, but it's also good for the Jews, and it's very good for the economy, because the growth of Israel in the future will be based not only on reforming some of our bureaucratic system, but based on 2 populations that are essentially the ultra-Orthodox that have to be moved towards work, but the Arab population that 20% and eager to participate fully in the labor force, in all its power. And all my intention, and I believe all of the members here believe in that, and I will do all in my power that indeed, as the Prime Minister promised, a new judge in this government by January 31st, when the meeting will come, and the meeting shouldn't be only declaration, because declaration and words are insufficient, only by allocation of resources and deeds. And my last point, we gathered the Prime Minister and myself, all leading Israeli businessmen, Jews and Arabs, on Thursday quietly, 2 days before the President went to Nazareth. And many of the leaders, I say all of the leaders, Jews and Arabs, say that we have to commit ourselves in Israel to a new deal concerning the Israeli-Arab population. The CEOs of the largest corporation of Israel admit that they didn't do in the past what they should be done. And again, 2010 is a critical year, and by that I end. I believe that the historical paradox, and I told it to Prime Minister Netanyahu, that he can be the greatest leader since Ben-Gurion, but he has to follow the path of Rabin, to divide the Holy Land to 2 states for 2 people, living in security and strength, and that's require Palestinian leadership of President Abu Mazen, and for equality and partnership fully to the Israeli Arabs, not only in voting, but also in allocation resources. Inshallah, salam alaikum. I apologize, and if you continue, I'll come to answer question after the meeting with the Finance Minister and Secretary General Angel Goria. Shukran. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Avishai Braverman, and he's a professor as well, was the president of Ben-Gurion University of the Negev and Minister of Minorities. At this time, I want to call upon member of Knesset Tzachi Hanegbi to offer his greetings. And we decided the time was ripe for this session. Speaker Rivlin and MK Tzachi Hanegbi immediately saw the importance and did what they could to make this happen. Mr. Hanegbi, and let's just share a few words about Mr. Hanegbi. Member of Knesset Tzachi Hanegbi has served in the Knesset for more than 20 years, during which time he has held numerous senior positions in government, including several ministerial portfolios. Mr. Hanegbi currently chairs the important Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee. He holds degrees in international relations and law. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Felice. I would like to welcome the chairman of the House, the Speaker of the House, Ruby Rivlin, who made a special effort to be here with us today. I want to welcome all my colleagues, Vice Minister Dani Alon, Ahmed Tibi, member of Knesset, Ahmed Tibi, and of course all the journalists that are here today. Felice defined me before as the host of today's event. Formally, it is true. We have here hosts, and we have guests, and we have Muslims and Christians and Jewish people. We have parliamentarians from both the coalition and the opposition. But put aside the distinctions and the differences, you'll find that all of us here share a common vision. We are all really united. We are united because we have a common commitment to preserve and enhance the Palestinian-Israeli dialogue. This is what unites us all. And we're not presumptuous to take the role of the negotiators. We don't have the authority nor the skills for that. But our decision to initiate this unprecedented event today marks our recognition that Israeli and Palestinian media can have a huge importance and influence on the peace process and on the future of both peoples. Millions of Israelis and Palestinians do not personally sit in the negotiation rooms, and they don't sit on the negotiation table, but they read the newspapers, and they listen to the radio, and they watch television, and they surf the net. So if Israeli and Palestinian journalists will get to know each other better, their consumers will gain a better understanding of our two societies. Once an Israeli reporter and a Palestinian one can communicate in an intimate and open manner, they will be able to describe the fears and frustrations and hopes of both peoples in the most genuine and qualitative spirit. The way to peace and reconciliation passes through fair and objective media, one that can serve as an honest mediator of facts, ideas, and emotions. This is why the work of Mideast Club and the Media Line is so crucial. This is why I accepted Phyllis' challenge and agreed to host today's meeting, and this is why I encourage you all to proceed relentlessly with your vital activities. Eventually, they will bear historic fruits. I wish us all a very fruitful and successful deliberations. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You're beating me to it.
Okay, now, you are unbeatable.
I actually have a gift for you.
Oh, thank you so very much. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, allow me. Okay. First of all, Speaker Reuven Rivlin is one of Israel's most senior political leaders, and I would venture to say one of the most respected. His term as Speaker of the Knesset has been marked by the commitment to the democratic process, and we really thank you. I have here a letter for you, and I hope that you will recognize this today as a historic day, and I'm going to read to you what it says. To the Honorable Reuven Rivlin, on behalf of the Professional Advisory Board and membership of the Mideast Press Club, it's my privilege to extend our gratitude and appreciation for hosting this historic session at the Knesset. The Mideast Press Club initiative of the Media Line news agency was created out of the need to foster communication and cooperation among professional journalists, regardless of and in spite of the political climate. Based on the axiom that the complete story cannot be written unless he or she who seeks to write that story has access to all sides, the Mideast Press Club was created at a time when Israeli and Palestinian journalists had no opportunity to chase down a lead, conduct an interview, or even poll the men and women on the opposite street because of the unbridled violence. Mr. Speaker, although barriers to complete reporting are not as grave as they once were, obstacles do continue, along with tensions and apprehensions. They sadly remain. Your unhesitating willingness to host this historic meeting, complete with the presence of the leading Palestinian journalists alongside their Israeli counterparts, pays tribute to this body and to its speaker. Realizing the inexorable link between democracy and a free and dynamic free press, you have today taken a significant step towards the enhancement of media coverage of this region and a better global understanding of its complicated issues by virtue of the resulting enhancement of the journalism practiced here. In appreciation of your efforts and for your commitment to a democratic process on this, the 19th day of January 2010,
Thank you.
we thank you.
Thank you very much. Chairman of the Defense and Foreign Affairs Committee, Tzachi Hanegbi, Deputy Minister Ayalon, Dani Ayalon, Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, Ahmed Tibi, dear guests, I welcome you to the shrine of Israel democracy, the Israeli Parliament, the Knesset. And I must say that most of the compliments that were addressed to me through this letter belongs to Tzachi Hanegbi. I adopted his initiative, and I think that it is a very important one. Israel is a Jewish democratic state, and by this very definition, we have a conflict that we stand behind. The conflict between the idea of a Jewish state with the right of return to the Jewish state only to Jews, while we have here among us people who were born in the historical land that Jews believe that there is the homeland, and we have to find a way in order to bridge between the idea of Israel as a Jewish state and as Israel as a democratic state. Sometimes it's almost unbridgeable. And we have a debate. We have a debate between Jews and Arabs, between Jews and Muslims, We have debate between Jews and Jews, because the definition of a Jewish state, what does it mean? Jewish state according to the Bible, according to the judicial ideas of the Orthodox people on the Jewish side. And on the same idea, how come we can say that it is a Jewish democratic state, that no one of the members of Knesset can change this definition to define Israel as a Jewish state, and on the same time to say that no one can change the nature of Israel as a democratic one. And that brings us to a lot of confrontations, a lot of debates, a lot of differences of opinion. Nevertheless, we, every one of us, although also those who were brought not as socialists, because I have no ability to patronize anyone, because I was brought up not as non-socialist. And that caused me a lot of problems, because I consider everyone as a human being. And although I believe in the right of the Jews to create their homeland, their own state, and to return back to the homeland, we have a lot of thoughts because of that conflict, because this is a conflict between two people. Both of them are absolutely believe that they are on the right side. And I would like to say one thing. Here, and my family have come to Israel 200 years ago, only because my ancestors believed that they should not pray to Jerusalem 3 times a day, but they should go and live in Jerusalem. And they have left the diaspora in Vilna, at the time Russia, and they have come to Jerusalem only because they say, why should we pray every day 3 times, return us back, dear God, to Jerusalem? We have returned back to, and we found all our friends, all our neighbors, who became our very good neighbors and very good friends here in Jerusalem, although during the years we had some ups and downs. And we learned to understand that we are not doomed to live together, not in the Middle East and not in Israel. We are destined to live together. And we have to find the way how to live together. Sometimes we have differences of opinion about the way. I have a very good relationship with all the Palestinian Israelis who are serving in the Knesset, but in the same time, our ideas almost unbridgeable. Nevertheless, we know very well that there is no way to depart us, that there is no way for us but to learn how to live with the conflict and to find a way in order to live with that. I welcome you once again. Unfortunately, this is a day that we have an annual meeting with the lawyers' bar, with all the high court judges in Israel, and I apologize that I will have to leave this forum, although it would be, I would be delighted to hear what you have to say, but I will read the protocol. Welcome once again to the Knesset, Shrine of Israel Democracy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Speaker Reuben Rivlin, and thank you for your time and the very important thoughts that he shared. Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon was elected to the Knesset for a term as Israel's ambassador to the United States. But before that, he advised prime ministers in the area of foreign policy. Deputy Minister Ayalon returned to a political career, took up leadership as chairman of Israel-Palestinian's international organization, and is well known in his current position. Member of Knesset Danny Ayalon, please share a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Felice. Good morning. The Honorable Tzachi Hanegbi, the Chairman of the Defense and Foreign Affairs Committee of the Knesset, the Honorable Ahmed Tibi, Member of Knesset and Deputy Speaker of the House, Felice and Michael Fritzen, Media Line. I want to also to congratulate you for this great initiative and for all your work that you're doing every day. I also welcome the board of Media Line and member of the press, Israeli press, Arab, Palestinian press, and international press. I think that such events are the most significant in really achieving what we all try to achieve here, which is peaceful reconciliation, which is really coexistence, dignity among everybody, justice among everybody. And when you do it on the people-to-people level, it's much more significant. It's longer lasting, hopefully everlasting, than just protocols or agreements between rulers or governments. As the Speaker of the House said here, we are destined to live here together. And I think that the living here together will be much better for all of us in terms of sharing resources, in terms of building a future together, in terms of, in a way, burying the past without forgetting it, but burying it would be much better if we all believed that this is not a zero-sum game. And unfortunately, at this point, I'm not sure that all of us, and I'm not blaming any one side here because this is not the idea here, but I'm not sure that people understand that this is not a zero-sum game. I think that by reconciliations, by working together, everybody will stand to gain. Now, let me tell you one thing which may be a little bit provocative, but it's not. When I hear that the goal, everybody says the goal now is a two-state solution. I'm sorry to say this does not really speak to me. It does not really speak to me because it is so narrowly defined. It is so narrowly defined because a two-state solution could be anywhere and everywhere, and if you don't put the real content to it, this is meaningless. I say that the real definition of our objective should be peace, should be historic reconciliations between Palestinians and Israelis, between Arabs and Jews, throughout the Middle East. This should be the real goal. The goal should be peaceful coexistence, dignity, justice, and security to all, which will bring prosperity to all. Now, if the way to this goal of real peace is through a two-state solution, let it be two-state solution, which is fine. But don't put this as the panacea to all the problems, because the panacea to all the problems is once we respect each other. And I do understand that at this point, because emotions maybe are too high, we cannot really discuss effectively the past. Palestinians have their narrative, they have the right for their own narrative, just as Jews and Israelis have the right for their own narrative. I do say to many of my Palestinian friends, at this point, there is no really a point to argue about the past. We will never agree. Let's build a future together. And we can build a future together. And if you look at what this government did from day one, April 1st of last year, it's been now 9 months, we went a long way. First of all, by realizing the two-state solution is the way to achieve the peace that we all want. Prime Minister Netanyahu started with this historic speech, I may say, because it comes from a Likud prime minister about a two-state solution in Bar Ilan University. Then it went on by reiterating this and by trying to move forward in terms of bringing the Palestinian into a table and sit and discuss everything, but everything together, all the tough issues of refugees, of Jerusalem, of territories, of everything else, without any preconditions, with open minds and open heart. Now let me tell you here that the leadership role today is to really bridge the gap between the national dreams and visions of their people and reality. This goes for Palestinian leaders as it does go for Israeli leaders. I will not speak for Palestinian leaders, and I'll be happy to later discuss it, but of course I'm not authorized to speak about Palestinian leaders. So let me just tell you about Israeli leadership in the last 16 years. The last 16 years of the peace process that started, the Oslo process that started in 1993. If you recall, it started with a joint declaration of recognition between the PLO, signed by Arafat, and by then the Israeli government, signed by the then late Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. It was a mutual recognition. Was also a commitment by all sides to solve all the differences in a peaceful way, in a dignified way. No more terrorism, no more violence. This was the initial recognition of each other, and this was the cornerstone for the entire political process which was to ensue later on. Now, if you look at the Israeli position from day one, 16 years ago until now, there was an evolution almost on a daily basis, because it is quite customary, it is natural, it is understandable that when two sides sit together, there are very, very tough opening positions. This goes for business, this goes for politics, this goes for diplomacy, almost every thing in life. You want to buy an apartment. The seller wants to put the highest price, the buyer wants to put the minimum price, and then somehow they bridge together and they meet halfway. If you look at the Israeli position from 1993 on, when there was a consensus in 93, and if you took polls in 93 about a Palestinian state, I would submit to you that probably 75% of Israelis would deny or the possibility, or would very much object a Palestinian state. This was back in 93. If you fast forward to where we are today, I would say that 75, maybe even more, if the security and the right terms are achieved, 75 and more % of Israelis believe and accept a Palestinian state. This is an enormous, enormous change that did not happen just by a chance. It happened because successive Israeli governments, from the right or from the left, educated the people, worked at a solution which again would be a real reconciliation, a historic peace between Arabs and Jews here in this really very small piece of land for all of us. So, and we did some real steps. And I take some pain in elaborating it because I think there is a chance here to explain to our Palestinian friends here in the house to see how it is from our perspective. The more we share this, your perspective and our perspective, without filters of noise from all kinds, I think this is the better. So if you look from 93, as I said, to now, Israel first signed on the interim and before 94, 95, creating the Palestinian Authority. Palestinian Authority gained control over more than 50% of the land, certainly all the populated areas, the 6 major towns in Judea and Samaria or the West Bank, with almost full authority. Later on, we signed more agreements, Hebron agreements, which we also carried out, and there were talks about agreement, 2-state solution, evacuation of settlements. Is it time to
Yes,
go?
it is.
Oh, I just started
You have
now.
to leave something for question and answer.
Oh, okay, okay.
We agree about evacuation of settlements and then.
You see, okay, this is a start. At least,
You heard it here.
yes. I would also like to agree, Mr. Tibi, about other things. You see, Israel is trying to do a lot of things, including settlements evacuation in Gaza, including talking about sharing the land, including now a settlement freeze. Maybe it's not perfect as you like it, but I always say, as they say in Washington, that the enemy of the good is the perfect. Let's settle for the good here. And as we say now, we're moving to discuss everything. I wish also that we would see the same kind of a preparation of the public in terms of less incitement and acceptance of the other side, ability, legitimacy, rights, inherent rights to be here. And I think this is the key. If we agree on that, and if we agree that this is not a zero-sum game, then the sky is the limit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Foreign Minister. Danny Ayalon. Ahmed Tibi, last but not least. Ahmed Tibi was born in the Arab city of Taiba and studied medicine at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Dr. Tibi is one of the Knesset's most recognizable figures as a leading voice among Arab intellectuals. He has participated in international negotiations and has suggested defining Israel as a multicultural country. Mr. Tibi, member of Knesset, and also Deputy Speaker, please.
Thank you, Phyllis. I would like to thank you a lot about this unique gathering of Israelis and Palestinians, Israeli journalists and Palestinians here in the Knesset. All Israeli journalists were able to arrive. Not all Palestinian journalists were able to arrive. I think no one from Gaza is here. No one from Gaza was permitted. Part of those from the West Bank were also prevented from arriving here. Ma'an agency, only one representative was allowed. The editor-in-chief in English edition of Ma'an is still arrested. He's European, I think. I hope he will be American, and he's arrested in the airport. Still for more than 4 days or more than that, 5 days. I hope he will be released. This is the place in order to call in a loud voice to soon release him and to allow his free access wherever he wants as a journalist. I can't start this gathering, this meeting, without to say that I feel euphoric sitting much more higher than you, Danny Ayalon, with your desk and my podium. But I think you can feel how it's to sit in a lower desk than others.
At least nobody threw shoes at us.
Not here, yet. It is very unique to be Arab in Israel. It is much more unique and tough experience to be an Arab MK in the Knesset. It is a very interesting place, but it is a daily struggle. It's a daily struggle in order to try to bridge the gap. It is a daily struggle in order to be equal. It is almost impossible. Especially in this 18th Knesset, the 18th session of the Knesset, where a lot of motions were proposed, which is mainly focusing in unequal right for Arab citizens and trying to push us as legislators to the corner. Last one, and this is the way that I can tackle the speech of Mr. Rivlin and Mr. Danny Ayalon, Deputy Foreign Minister, which is demanding from us trying to enforce Arab MKs to declare loyalty to Jewish and Zionist state, demanding from Arab members of the Knesset to be loyal to Zionism. You know, it is almost black and white. It is obvious and total contradiction, because there are two narratives which are almost, as Speaker Rivlin said, cannot be bridged: the Zionist narrative and the Arab-Palestinian narrative. You know what happened in 1948, the Nakba, and the Palestinian narrative, and there is the Zionist narrative. Palestinians were at 1948 and from then to now victims of the Zionist ideology. No one can inform the victim to be loyal to those who acted against them. I am talking about deportation, destruction of the whole nation. But we do believe that Jews and Arabs as citizens in the same state of Israel should be equal. Before 10 or 15 years, there were no motions, no laws, mainly talking about discrimination between Jews and Arabs. This barrier was broken. Now there are laws mainly talking about discrimination, especially under the title of Israel and definition as a Jewish state. Israel defining itself as a Jewish and democratic state. Look, Jewish before democratic. It is not just like that. We do believe that there is a contradiction between the two values. Being defined as a democratic, you should lead mainly equal values, equal rights for all citizens. But you cannot deal in equal terms between Ahmed and Dani if you are defining yourself as a Jewish state. Because according to this definition, Dani will be superior to Ahmed just because he is Jewish and because I am Arab. I cannot, at any case, we will not accept any kind of this discrimination based on ethnic background. To be a democratic state, it is to deal in equal way. Last week, I issued a motion in the Knesset. I proposed the equal value in allocation of land between all citizens. I asked for modification of the law to say that Israel will allocate lands to all its citizens in equal terms. At the Ministerial Special Committee for Legislation, no one minister supporting my motion. No one minister. At the Knesset, there was a vast majority who voted against my motion, and again, it was not supported by the Knesset. I would like to tell that in the basic laws of the Knesset of Israel, there is no one basic law talking about equality as a value. And if I will ask to have a motion talking about equal rights, basic law, demanding equal rights for all citizens, not Jews and Arabs, for all, men and women, secular and religious, and Arabs and Jews, it will not pass. It will not pass. We tried it. I demand equal rights with Dani Ayalon.
So you say we are a democratic state, you see?
I am struggling, you know. I am being intimidated by the time.
So was I.
I guess you share something in common.
I would like to, at the end, Minister Braverman talked about his meeting with the OECD Director General. It is time to say that according to the OECD rules, Israel should deal with equal rights with all citizens, Jews and Arabs. Israel is not. There is no one level aspect on the life of Israel that there is equal right dealing between Jews and Arabs. Budgets, allocation of lands, education, housing, Islamic properties, infrastructure. That's why I do appeal here, from here, to Secretary General of the OECD not to approve the membership of Israel unless there are equal rights and equal budgets for Arab citizens exactly like Jewish citizens in Israel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member of Knesset, Ahmed Tibi. And that brings us full circle, no pun intended. As we sit and look at the editor's circle, we want to call upon you, the journalists, to ask the questions. I just ask that we don't make statements, that we are able to address who we are, what outlet that we are speaking for, and to whom you are going to address the question. I'm going to bring in the translator, and our lovely translator, Amal Haresh, is going to come and join us so that any questions that are asked in Arabic are going to be translated immediately into English for this audience. So if we can please, by raise of hands, begin from the circle of who is interested. Rear, and if you can please go up to the mic. Okay.
I'd like to ask Dr. Tibi exactly what loyalty oath you would be prepared to take. And I'd like to ask my Arab colleagues here, my Palestinian colleagues, what have you received out of this meeting? Was it worth coming?
Okay, yes, and you can answer from your mics. Yeah, they're open.
I don't like it because I am equal to Danny alone at the same level.
Well, I'm not going to really say what's going on here. We're going to start measuring tables and chairs in a minute.
Not only Arab members of the Knesset are not ready to declare loyalty to Israel as a Zionist and Jewish state. Yahudut HaTorah members, religious members of the Knesset, are with us in this position. I respect laws, but not all the laws in the which were passed here are holy. That's why I am trying to change some of these laws, but I will not declare any loyalty to any idea or ideology which is totally against my belief and my narrative. Mrs. Cashman?
Yeah.
We did, in every beginning of any Knesset session in the before 1 year, we did declare loyalty to the laws of the state. Okay? Even that, I am trying to change some of these laws because they are not sacred. Thank you very much.
Okay. Ari O'Sullivan is the bureau chief for the Media Line. Michael Friedson is the co-founder of the Media Line. They're going to be taking the mics around to see who else would like to ask a question. I think it'll make it a little bit easier. By raise of hand.
يوسف شايب جريدة الأيام شايب سؤالي للسيد داني أيالون وأصر على الحديث بالعربية سؤالي يتحدث السيد أيالون أنه منذ الحكومة الحالية هناك جهود كبيرة لاستئناف عملية السلام. تحدث عن خطاب السيد نتنياهو لكنه أغفل الوقائع على الأرض، يعني أغفل ما يحدث من استيطان متواصل، أغفل الفشل الذريع في مسيرة المفاوضات ل 15 عاما رغم التغيير الكبير الذي أيضا سؤالي كيف يعتقد أنه بإمكان التوصل إلى عملية سلام واستئناف المفاوضات دون والسيد نتنياهو يتحدث عن دولة منقوصة السيادة، لا حدود واضحة، لا قوة عسكرية، لا سيادة على المعابر، لا قدس، لا أفق لعودة اللاجئين. أي دولة مسخ يمكن أن يقبل بها الفلسطينيون؟ هل هذا هو لم ندرس أن في العلوم السياسية على الأقل أن هناك دولة بلا أجهزة أمنية ولا سيطرة على المعابر، ودولة بدون عاصمة نعتقدها عاصمتنا.
Amal, can you please try to translate or at least concise? Yeah.
The reporter's name is Yusuf Shayeb from Al Ayyam newspaper. He is insisting on speaking in Arabic. I present the question to Mr. Ayalon, who presented what the government has been doing long ago concerning the peace and the speech that Netanyahu gave, but it's contradictory to what is going on the ground as far as the settlements and the failure in negotiations. There is a grave change happened since 15 years ago. That is true, but my question is, how can we reinstate and go back to peace talks and negotiations if, in fact, Netanyahu is asking or is demanding or presenting a half or parted state without any clear borders, no control over the borders. He is not talking about Jerusalem or the return of refugees. Thank you. We are talking about no country. I didn't learn anything like this in political science, that a country can be established without having security, without having control over its security, without having a capital which we consider as its capital.
Thank you. Indeed, what we see here is something which is unique for political science, because we're talking here about creation of a new state, has not existed before. And you will see that the irony of history is that the Palestinian state will be created by the Jewish state and by the Jews. However, let me tell you that all the parameters that you mentioned should not be discussed here, because this is exactly what we are trying to do, is behind closed doors. If you really want to take and make effective negotiations, you stated quite eloquently the demands from the Palestinian side. We have our own demands, and we should meet halfway in between. However, let me draw attention to everybody here that on two cases in the past 8-10 years, there was a very, very comprehensive offer by Israeli governments that put on the table, once by former Prime Minister Barak in 2000 in Camp David, the second one by former Prime Minister Olmert just a year and a half ago. One was to Arafat, one was to Mahmoud Abbas, with very exact parameters, as you discussed, including borders, and unfortunately they were rejected. This is not helpful for coming into a reconciliations. But let me tell you also something that my good friend Ahmed Tibi said. Ahmed or Dani, let me tell you, as a Dani, I tried to get into a medical school, which I couldn't. Mr. Ahmed Tibi did get into a medical school. He's a doctor in Israel, a very respected doctor in Israel. So when you talk about democracy, it's also equal rights. And I believe we do have here equal rights and equal opportunities. However, I went also to an economic school. I didn't go to a medicine school, a prestigious one as Mr. Ahmed Tibi did, and rightly so, because he is more competent than me, so he should get it. And the fact that he is not a Jew, his name is Ahmed, did not prevent him to become a very successful gynecologist, maybe the best in Israel. When he talks about equal rights, let me say, equal rights also prescribe equal obligations. And when we talk about a Jewish state, A Jewish state is not, Judaism is not just a religion, it's also a nationality, it's a way of life, it's a rich civilization that exists for 5,000 years or 4,000 years. Now, just as Jews, we know, we were in minorities for 2,000 years. As Jewish minorities in Arab and Muslim countries, we played allegiance to Islamic countries. And we didn't say, we didn't take it as an offense that as Jews, but as members, as citizens of, whether it was Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, or Egypt, or any other country, we were loyal to the king. We were loyal to the country. We were loyal to whatever this country was defined, whether it was Christian or whether it was Muslim. So let me emphasize here that we do not ask anything which is out of the ordinary throughout history. And it is a double standard that Arab Israelis would not accept Israel as a Jewish state, even as a minority, and especially as they do have a choice. As they do have a choice, and I'm proud to say that Israel Beitenu, when we talk about a solution of the two-state solutions, we do not preclude the chance that Arab Israelis who do not wish to stay under Israeli sovereignty and regime would go without going physically, but would change and transfer their citizenship to a Palestinian citizenship. You know, there are 250 or 300,000 Israeli Arabs who live smack dab across the green line. When we talk about swaps of land, that's the Palestinian request. Why not do a swap on an equal footing? If we are to incorporate populated areas, the blocks, settlement blocks into Israel, why not have very nice Israeli villages, Arabs, who will join the Palestinian state, join their brothers, join their fathers? Then they will not have this problem of loyalty to a state which they don't want to be in. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have to be loyal to time and try to get some more questions in. Thank you very much. I do want to set the record straight, Mr. Tibi, and let you know that there were journalists that did get permits from Gaza, but they had to get permission from Hamas, and they did not get that permission. So sometimes it's important to note for record that what you see isn't always the way it happens. Anyhow, can we move on to the next?
You understand what you said?
I interviewed on another subject that a colleague of us is holding at the airport and not allowed entry here. That's another issue. 5 days in jail for nothing.
But you got the message about Hamas, I hope.
Yes, we get the messages from both sides. All of that's our job.
Thank you, Connie. Any questions?
I should react to Mr. Ayalon, especially about his remark that I was accepted to the medical school in Israel, and this is a sign of equal rights. I would like to say that I was accepted because I succeeded in my exams, and all what is good in me is because of me. All what is bad on me, it's because of discrimination against me as an Arab. First of all. Second, about the idea of moving Arabs or revoking the Arab citizenship of Arab citizens in the State of Israel. That's why we are saying that we cannot accept and we totally denounce the attitude of Israel-Palestinian and Deputy Minister Danny Ayalon proposing dealing with us as guests. You can move from here to there. We were not brought here by airplanes to this homeland. We are indigenous. We were born here. We don't want to deport anyone from Israel, but if anyone should move, usually those who arrived at the end lately are supposed to leave first. We were not arrived lately to this homeland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tibi. We're going to move on. Next question, please.
السؤال موجه إلى زملائي الصحفيين الفلسطينيين. هل تعتقدون أن للصحفيين الفلسطينيين تأثيرا كافيا على الرأي العام الفلسطيني من جهة وعلى القيادة الفلسطينية من جهة أخرى؟
My My question is for my colleagues, my journalist and my media colleagues.
Excuse me, could she
Palestinian.
please state her name and what media outlet she's with?
She didn't state.
My name is Judith Bodek. I am from the Israel Broadcasting
Thank you.
Services.
To state it again, she stated it in English. My question is to my colleagues. To what extent do you find that your effect on the general society, on the media, to what extent do you have an influence on the people and the population, on the
In your community.
and on your leadership as media members?
اوكي بقدر اجاوب على هذا السؤال.
Ahmed Khamed is going to take that.
صباح الخير للجميع. أحمد حماد من المجلس التشريعي، مدير البرامج التشريعية الإذاعية في المجلس التشريعي وصحفي مستقل، يعني بساعد في العديد من نشاطات النادي الصحافة في الشرق الأوسط الميديا لاين. يعني الرد على جواب الزميلة يوديت حول موضوع التأثير، أعتقد أنه هناك تأثير للإعلاميين سواء في الجانب الفلسطيني أو الجانب الإسرائيلي على القيادات، ولكن على القيادات أيضا عليها أن تصغي وأن تسمع إلى أصوات الإعلاميين سواء في الجانبين الإسرائيلي والفلسطيني، وأن هذه اللقاءات قبل أن أكمل الجواب، هذه اللقاءات من شأنها بين الزملاء الصحفيين الإسرائيليين والصحفيين الإسرائيليين هي لتقوية جسور الثقة والتعاون والاحترام بين الزملاء الصحفيين في كلا الجانبين. أما بالنسبة لتكملة الجواب، أعتقد أنه المسؤولين الفلسطينيين بيتابعوا الصحافة سواء المسموعة أو المرئية أو المقروءة، والمسؤولين الإسرائيليين ولهم أيضا الإعلاميين تأثير إيجابي في العديد من القضايا على المسؤولين الكبار في الحكومة سواء الحكومة الإسرائيلية أو الحكومة الفلسطينية.
My name is Ahmed Hamad. I'm a freelance journalist. I also a member of the media line.
Where do you live?
I live in Jerusalem.
I would like to answer Edith. We have a large extent as journalists, if we are, I think, an Israeli or Palestinians, we are able to bring our voice forward to the leadership as well. I think this important meeting for Palestinian and Israeli journalists is extremely important for their cooperation on both sides. I think the leadership and people who carry important positions, do watch the media, do follow up on what happens on the media, and it has a great extent of influence, very often very positive influence on different issues, because leadership members also do watch the media and what is stated on it.
Thank you very much, Amal. Thank you, Ahmed. Any questions, please?
أهلا وسهلا بكم. إليني سامة تلفزيون الإسرائيلي باللغة العربية. أنا أستمع يوميا إلى المحطات العربية بشكل خاص المحطات الفلسطينية، ومما أرى أن كافة المحطات الفلسطينية وبشكل خاص العربية تتخذ موقف أحادي الجانب تجاه إسرائيل، بمعنى أن فقط هناك انتقادات تجاه الموقف الإسرائيلي والطرف الإسرائيلي، ولا أسمع مرة واحدة فقط انتقادات تجاه ما تقوم به على سبيل المثال السلطة الفلسطينية أو العالم العربي.
Welcome everyone. I work for the Israeli TV in Arabic. I listen and I follow up the Palestinian and the Arab stations on different occasions, and particularly the Palestinian. What I see and what I notice is that the coverage of the Palestinian or the Arab stations is one-sided. Usually we hear different criticism to the Israeli stand, and I never hear any criticism towards the Palestinian Authority or to the Palestinian world.
To whom did you address your question? Because I think instead of making statements, we are asking questions today. Yusuf, can we give someone else a chance first? Anyone else want to ask a question? Any of the Israelis or foreign press?
Hi, I'm David Horowitz from the Jerusalem Post. I just think, first of all, I think it's terrific that we have an opportunity to meet again Israeli and Palestinian journalists, and I did make the visit to Ramallah a couple of years ago, which was very useful. I think, and I'm speaking to the Palestinian journalists, and I don't know who wants to answer this, Danny Ayalon set out quite a good consensual summary that Israelis, I think, would like to resolve the contradiction of trying to be a Jewish and democratic state by reaching an accommodation with the Palestinians, some kind of territorial compromise, so that the Israel that is left is overwhelmingly Jewish and maintains its democracy. What I'd like to know, what would be useful, I think, for us to hear from some of our Palestinian colleagues, is what is the Palestinian sort of public attitude? We heard it in your question, Yusuf, what about the right of return? What about a capital in Jerusalem? I would like some sense from you, maybe not your personal opinion, but some sense of whether the Palestinian public is ready for a territorial accommodation, whether the Palestinian public is prepared for Palestine to absorb Palestinian refugees in the way that Israel absorbed Jewish refugees from the Middle East and North Africa. In other words, really, whether there is any hope of a negotiated accommodation, because the feeling in Israel is that the last government tried, couldn't make a deal, and therefore there's a lot of despondency in Israel about the prospects for finding a middle ground. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to address this question. Any of the Palestinian journalists that are here would like to respond to David Horowitz?
شكرا للسؤال. يعني المشاعر الشارع الفلسطيني واضحة، وهي تتجه في معظمها باتجاه أيضا توافق على حل الدولتين وتحقيق السلام. والدليل على ذلك هو انتخاب الرئيس محمود عباس رئيسا للسلطة الوطنية الفلسطينية، لأنه طرح هذا البرنامج بشكل واضح وعلني وحصل على النسبة الأعلى في الانتخابات. بالنسبة للاجئين لا أعتقد بأن هناك أي ممن أجبر جده أو والده على مغادرة أرضه أو ما يعتقد هو أنها أرضه ويشدد على أنها أرضه. لا أعتقد أنه من السهولة بمكان أن تقنعه، خاصة الجيل الأول أو الثاني، بأن بالعودة إلى الدولة الفلسطينية دون أن يكون هناك رؤية شاملة للحل، بمعنى أن يكون هناك في نوع من التساوي بين بجميع الأطراف.
Okay, Amal, please translate briefly.
Thank you for the question. The Palestinian public's attitude is very well known and clear, which is towards a two-state solution and towards peace. Apparently, that is seen from the elections and from the electing Mahmoud Abbas, who presented an agenda which was clear of a two-state solution, and he had a higher number of votes in the elections. As for the refugees, no one who is forced to leave his land, especially from the first or the second generation, will see this as an easy solution. But everybody in the Palestinians feel and see that the point of view of going toward coexistence and understanding that there are natural rights which are for both sides, and they accept that.
Okay, question for any of the members of Knesset.
سعد جبران من إذاعة صوت الشرق من رام الله. بدي أعلق على نقطتين. الأولى على رد على زميلي من التلفزيون الإسرائيلي إنه هو سمع المحطات الفلسطينية سواء الإذاعية أو التلفزيونية أو تابعها، ولم يسمع انتقاد للحكومة الفلسطينية أو للسلطة الفلسطينية، بينما يسمع دائما الانتقاد للجانب الإسرائيلي. هذا ما اجاش من فراغ. يعني احنا بنعيش معاناة يومية كفلسطينيين. بنطالب بدولة فلسطينية وبحقوقنا. قامت دولة فلسطينية بحدود السنة 67. إزالة المستوطنات، القدس الشرقية عاصمة دولتنا. هاي هي مطالبنا. هلا ليش بننتقد الجانب الإسرائيلي؟ لأنه احنا بنطالب بهذا الحق من الجانب الإسرائيلي، لأنه احنا سكان أصليين كمان. زي ما هم بيحكوا انه هاي دولتهم، احنا كمان انه لازم يكون لنا دولتنا. الجانب الثاني اللي بدي ارد عليه اللي
بس
هو
لحظة تعطيني مجال أترجم. My name is Saad Jubran from East Voice from Ramallah. I would like to give a reflection on what my colleague, my Israeli colleague, has presented. That when he watches Palestinian channels, he never hears any criticism towards the Palestinian government or authority. To an extent that is true, because this did not come from thin air. It is something based on the ground, on what happens on the ground. We are suffering as people. We demand a Palestinian state. We demand the return to the borders of 76. We demand the demolishment of settlements. We demand to have a capital of Jerusalem. All these demands and all these criticism is presented towards the Israeli government and to the Israeli state. And indeed, we are demanding these and we are presenting these through our media.
One last question, Avi Sakharov.
If I may, two questions.
You may.
First of all, to MK Tzachi Hanegbi, and then to Dani Ayalon. Excuse me, Dr. Tibi, هذه مش سياسة عنصرية.
Can you please state who you...
Avi Sakharov from Haaretz newspaper. First question to Mr. Hanegbi. What can Kadima party offer to the peace process that Netanyahu government doesn't offer? Or let me ask it in another way. Does Kadima party has another plan, plan B, different than the one that the Netanyahu governments offer concerning Jerusalem, refugees and borders? And the second question to Mr. Dani Ayalon, does Israel Beitenu really think that it can achieve peace, or a right-wing government can achieve peace without giving East Jerusalem to the Palestinians, and without almost 100% of the 1967 territories?
Thank you, Avi. I think that Kadima party is maybe the only party in the Knesset that cannot be, there's no question mark concerning its commitment to promote the peace process. We had two prime ministers, Sharon and Olmert. Sharon initiated the unilateral withdrawal from the Gaza, thus proving his readiness to go forward with painful and unprecedented concessions. And he was replaced by Olmert, who, as was mentioned before, gave another unprecedented suggestion to the Palestinians that was unfortunately never answered, and not even by a counter suggestion. I guess that Abu Mazen at the time didn't feel comfortable to give an answer, because he felt that Olmert's days in the primarship are numbered, and it was not logical for him to make concessions to a prime minister that might not be relevant within days or weeks or months. So this is something that can be understood. Still, we are not in power now, and we are not in a situation where we can negotiate. But we do support the government's efforts, if they will be genuine and real and sincere, to go forward and renew the peace process. We doubt it. But we still give the Prime Minister a chance, and we call upon the Palestinians to give the Prime Minister a chance. Otherwise, we will be stuck for years until Kadima will get back to power, which might take years. So we don't want to deal with the media about the refugee issue or about the nature of possible solution in Jerusalem. There is no way that it can be effective if it's going to be discussion in the media. It has to be in closed doors, in the table with the Palestinians, and hopefully we will have chance to be part of such negotiation very soon.
Well, thank you, Avi. First of all, as you heard, my good friend, member of Knesset, former Minister Tzachi Hanegbi, you know, we in Israel Beitenu called for Kadima to join. I do not see much difference. Actually, I think we could have created a broad coalition. Certainly, we need the leadership of Tzachi Hanegbi in any government in the future. So, but about your question, Avi, it's symptomatic to put the onus on Israel, you know, because it could be just as relevant to ask the Palestinian leadership, do they believe that they can reach an agreement with Israel with full control over the sacred places of the Temple Mount, with what euphemistically is called the right of return, and with 100% of their demands territorially. So I would say that these things should be discussed honestly in a negotiation, which would be direct negotiations without preconditions, and things can be done over there. I don't want to say now anything which is presumptuous or anything which would be prejudicial for any agreement.
Okay. I will close after you if you can kindly just say a couple of words.
Okay, I think that at least I feel that it was too short, and maybe it should be the beginning of an ongoing dialogue. I didn't come to hear myself, or even to hear my friend Dani, or even to hear my friend Ahmed. We speak a lot, and we fight a lot in the Knesset for years and years. I came here because I thought that this is maybe, for me, an opportunity that I didn't have much before, to hear Palestinian people who are involved in the media, who reflect the feelings of their community, and who can be partners for dialogue with Israelis, whether they are journalists or whether they are members of Knesset. I think that we should call upon Phyllis to go forward and make such meetings much more, let's say, as many times as you can. We will be happy to do it, not in front of the camera. This was important for the media, but behind closed doors. And this is a good opportunity for us to get to learn each other and to be much more knowledgeable of each other's aspirations and hopes. So I want to thank you again. I want to thank all of you, especially people who came from the Palestinian Authority, who made the effort, who are courageous enough to come to the Israeli Knesset. I want to thank you very, very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, before we close this session, I want to thank the Palestinian journalists that came today. And there were hopes that there were going to be many more of these sessions, many that we've had since 2005, but many more. And yes, we are going to charter more buses back and forth. And as a matter of fact, David Rubinger has agreed to even join us and go to Ramallah and teach some photojournalism there in the next few months. So there are a lot of things that we're going to be involved in, and we're going to be informing you. But most important, I want to thank each and every one of you, the journalists that came out today. After all, you are writing about the stories here. You are each covering the stories here. You need to have the access, definitely. But most important, don't forget your colleagues in a profession that's not always simple. And in this case, before we close, I want to thank our staff, because they did an incredible job, and I really do want to single out a few people. Rochelle Klieger, thank you very, very much. People don't realize how difficult it is to really make hundreds and hundreds of calls and try to get assistance. And I want to thank Ahmed Hamed as well for, really, you went above and beyond. Ari O'Sullivan, and of course, the rest of you know who you are. I just want to thank our hosting member of Knesset, Tzachi Hanegbi. Again, many, many thanks. Danny Ayalon, Deputy Foreign Minister. And, of course, Ahmed Tibi. Many, many thanks for the members of Knesset for joining us. And with this, I close this session of the Mideast Press Club.
لكن سلم صحي